Shalom, it's Jeremiah Yakol. Before we start off, I want to give praises to the Father and the Son. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushua, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushua, Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Rakakadash. Yahweh is who people ignorantly call God, and Yahushua is who people ignorantly call Jesus. You so-called black, so-called Hispanic, so-called Native Americans, you are the Hebrew Israelites. And also, no matter the color of your skin, if you're feeling pulled and compelled to push and learn this truth, and you are an Israelite. Today we've been getting to 2nd Esdras, 9 and 5. It says, "For like is all that is made in the world hath a beginning and an end, and the end is made manifest." And in this current time we are in the end of this current world, this current kingdom, this current rulership. It says, and an end, and the end is made manifest, So if you're looking at all the events that's happening in the world with a spiritual lens, not a carnal, worldly lens, it's clear and evident that we are in the end of, this current kingdom, this current world. We've seen all the prophecies come to pass. Like, the MOTB is already here on the scene, been on the scene for a couple years now. We're in the midst of World War III. And just talking about those two prophecies, those are two major prophecies and indications that the return of the Lord is, very, very soon. Because all of the major prophecies that we are waiting on are here. That we were waiting on are here, man. And they are speaking boldly, man. It says, and the end is made manifest. So, it's clear and evident that we are in, that we are in the end of this, this current evil, rulership, man. And then you look at it, just talking about World War III, is that when you look at all these different wars that's going on in the world, all of them are intertwined and connected in a way. It's like you look at the Russia-Ukraine, for example. You have, NATO and Mystery Babylon and its allies back in Ukraine. And you have, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea backing, Russia. And if you go to the Israel-Iran conflict, which just took a pause, well, really, if you look at it, Israel is still, bombing Iran, to this very second, taking out targets and buildings and stuff in Iran. So it's like, while the world thinks that war is over, they just hit a pause button, man. That Israel-Iran war is not over, man. It's far from over. And on top of that, you have Russia doing naval exercise drills in the South Japan Sea. Then a couple days before they did that, China did another blockade type military exercise around Taiwan. It was like, you see that, all the lines are drawn. All these wars are connected. You have the BRICS nations, the Russia, China, Iran, versus, the West, NATO, US, and all its allies. So, it's clear and evident that, we're in the midst of World War III. And if you look about almost a year ago, around, October time 2024, North Korea sent around 11,000 troops to Ukraine to fight on, Russia's behalf in Ukraine. And if you look less than a year later, now North Korea announced that they're sending 30,000, more troops to Ukraine. It was like you have nuclear nations in active conflicts. You have Russia, nuclear nation, in active conflict right now. You have the fake Israel was in a conflict. You had Pakistan, nuclear nation, that was in a conflict this year. You had India, a nuclear nation, in a conflict right now. It was like all these wars are involving nuclear countries. And it's like, ever since, I came into this truth, 2020, each year, more things have been being fulfilled and more prophecies have been coming to pass. And, one of the main prophecies that's, that has been catching my eye, has been on my radar for a long time, is, World War III. And, as we can see, man, the Lord is having this third woe to grow and increase. Look at all these wars we had. Again, India, Pakistan. We still have Russia, Ukraine still going on. We have Iran, Israel. And on top of that, eventually, man, that China, Taiwan, that's really going to be the groundbreaker right there, man. There's Mystery Babylon. They came out with this post, New York Times, like 2 years ago. They said that the U.S. sees himself in a full-blown war with China, by 2025, 2026. And it's like, we know that eventually, man, U.S. is going to be a full-blown war, man. Against, the kings of the East, Russia, China, Iran. But when you look at it, Mystery Babylon, aka America, is already at war with Russia. They are sending all these missiles, all this artillery, and all these, mercenaries to Russia to fight against Russia. Then on top of that, you look at Mystery Babylon, U.S. is already at war with Iran. They bombed Iran. So U.S. is at war. It was like this third woe is clear and evident, but majority of this world hasn't awoken to the fact that this third World War III is here. And you seen like a week, 2 weeks ago when Israel, Iran, was fully on and popping, it was all these jokes and memes on social media about World War III drafts, about all these, funny posts about World War III. It's like people are, making jokes and laughing about it like this third woe isn't going to, get more deadlier and more destructive, man. And, the same people that are making jokes and laughing about, this third woe, it's going to be, the same people that's going to be getting drafted, put on them front lines, sent to them different battlefields or whatever it may be. And you look at it, relate this to the flood. How it when Noah was on the scene. People didn't believe the flood was going to come until it happened. A lot of these people, again, making jokes about this third woe, they're not going to believe it till it's, you're being shipped to Europe, you're being shipped to Asia, you know, attacks and sabotages, things like that happening in, you know, your respective country, state, city, or whatever it may be. And you know, this third woe is, you know, deadly serious, man. No, it's not nothing to be making jokes about. You know, really knowing that we're in the midst of this third woe, you know, you should, you know, examine yourself, you know, to see, you know, how can you, you know, change, you know, how can you be better, you know, how can you get closer to Yahweh Hashem Yahushua, you know, how can you please Lord to the best of your ability. It's like these times that we're in are a time of, you know, examination, but also, you know, a time of action also. Because knowing that we're in the midst of this third woe, you know, a major event can happen any given day. And, you know, boom, famine of the word right there. You know? So, you know, the end is made manifest. You look at all these wild, you know, storms, natural disasters that's happening, you know, going on. A lot of people don't know that storms and natural disasters, you know, hurricanes, earthquakes, tornadoes, whatever it may be, are, you know, plagues from Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. And, you know, these plagues have been been increasing and getting more deadlier. You know, if you look at it, in 2025, 2024 alone, we've been having a lot of mass, you know, death events. You know, like, it's been more and more common. You know, more and more people have been, you know, dying in plane crashes. You know, like, end of 2024, it was this roof collapse in the Dominican Republic where like 200 people died. So it's like, as time goes on, man, we should expect this third woe to get more and more destructive, more and more deadlier. And, you know, these mass death events to get more and more common. And because we are in the end of the world, man. End of this world, at least. Now I'm finna go to, you know, Jeremiah 30:7. Because we are in Jacob's trouble right now. Now, of course, it's going to escalate and, you know, get more, you know, deadlier, more destructive with more tribulation. It says, for thus saith the Lord, we have heard a voice of trembling, of fear, and not of peace, man. You know, the times we are in, it's going to get worse, man. It's going to get more crazier, man. You know, the plagues are going to increase, man. The destruction from this third woe is going to increase, man. And it's like, this is not no joke. It says, ask ye now and see whether a man doeth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned to paleness. You know? You know, man, because even though it seems like it's peace, you know, here right now, and this peace this comfort way of living with your feet up, being able to go to the store and whatnot, that's coming to an end, man. And the times that are coming, people are gonna look back and wish they want to go back to the time where they could sit up and chill, watch TV, kick their feet up, man. But this time of comfort, this time of peace, is speedily coming to an end, man. Verse 7. At last for that day is great, so that none is like it. Pause. It says, at last that day is great, so that none is like it. At this time period, Jacob's trouble, which we are in right now, is and will be the worst time period ever on the face of the earth. What is this saying? That Jacob's trouble is going to be more worse than a flood. Jacob's trouble is going to be more worse than 70 AD. When the Romans, sieged and, killed and took captive a lot of Hebrew Israelites. It's saying Jacob's trouble is going to be way more worse than 1611, 1400s, when, the northern and southern kingdom were being, colonized and, made prisoners of war during that time period. So, this is going to be the worst time period ever. Ever, man. Nothing can compare to it. It says, it is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. And who is the he that's going to be saved out of it? The elect. The 144. And, even if you go to Second Esdras, the 13th chapter, it tells you how you can escape and preserve yourself during Jacob's trouble. This Second Esdras 13 and 23 says, he that shall endure the peril in that time, meaning, the time period that we are in right now, he hath kept himself. They that be fallen into danger are such as have works and faith towards the Almighty. So, how, the Lord can have compassion on you and save and preserve you during Jacob's trouble is by shewing him those works. And how do you shew the Lord those works? By pushing his truth, pushing his gospel, using the talents, the knowledge that, he has given you. And, that's how you, if it's of the Lord's will for you to survive Jacob's trouble, pushing his truth, pushing his gospel is how you can escape this burning house, this hellhole that's Mystery Babylon, aka America. It says, verse 24, know this therefore, that they that which be left behind are more blessed than they that be dead. So, meaning it is, you are more blessed to be a pilgrim as a pilgrim on the earth, going through all hell breaking loose, shit hitting the fan during the midst of Jacob's trouble, than to, die in the midst of it. So that's saying, even though you're going to be going through all hell breaking loose, shit hitting the fan, you are more blessed than those people that perished and died during shit hitting the fan or before shit hit the fan. Because keep in mind, when shit hitting the fan, all these people that's in the world is not going to be knowing why this is happening and what's going on. But brothers, you know that's going to be around that time when shit is hitting the fan, are going to understand and know why shit is hitting the fan. And you're going to know, you know, what's coming. You know, the coming of the Lord, man. So, you know, brothers are going to be going through shit hitting the fan with confidence. You know, faith. And you know, how you can be confident and show your faith is by, you know, pushing this truth, you know. This is the pushing this truth, pushing this gospel is the golden ticket, if you would say, of how to escape this place. And by pushing this truth, you're showing the Lord that you love him. And in return from you pushing this truth, you know, showing the Lord that you love him, in return, he's going to redeem you out of this hellhole, this burning house, which is Mystery Babylon. So with that, hope this lesson was edifying the spirit and power of Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. All praises unto Yahweh Hashem Yahushua. Until next time, Shalom, Yashallah.